Good afternoon, everyone. I am Attorney Danyl Patterson, candidate for the 190th state rep seat right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For those who don't know, that's West Philly, baby. So calling out my friends from Spruce Hill, Cedar Park, Haddington, Dunlap, going over to Mill Creek. Can't forget about my friends in West Powelton, Belmont, East Parkside, Carroll Park, Cathedral Park, Winfield Heights, Allegheny West, and Lehigh Avenue West. And I can ever forget. I got to let the folks over there in 5 Points know that they consider themselves a whole different area with a whole different vibe. And we've got to acknowledge them as such. Today, my favorite day of the week, it's Feel Good Friday. We get to really just let loose a little bit, hang back, just talk about things. We've got 4 days where you can still request your ballots online. I ask everyone, participate in the process. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the process. We're not here advocating for candidates at that point because I don't know who you vote for in the end, but I want to know that you have gotten the opportunity to vote. If you've not gotten your ballot, go on over to vote190.com. That's vote190.com, and it'll take you right to the page so that you can request your ballot so that your voice can be heard. So today, Feel Good Friday, it's Memorial Day weekend. And y'all know, in normal circumstances, we'd really be feeling good right about now because that means that we'd be ready for the long weekend. I don't even know how many of you will be joining me at 3:30 p.m. because even me, I know that I would have been cutting out of work early so that I can get home and get that weekend started already because y'all know it's all about the barbecue. It's time for family and friends. It's the unofficial start of summer. We start to make our plans. We're pulling out our sundresses and shorts, and we are getting ready for what's going to be an exciting few months ahead of us. But now it's the age of COVID. And the question is, are we? Well, I don't know. Are you? What are you guys doing this weekend? I really want to know. So I know, it's going to be very, very different, but there's still something to celebrate. There's still something to feel good about. And why? Because, hey, if you're in the sound of my voice or you're watching this live, you're on YouTube, don't forget to check us out over at DSP and 190th. That's DSP and 190th on YouTube.com. And you can catch up on any of the past episodes and experiences. But this is the thing. If you're listening to this, you're watching this right now, you're at least healthy and safe. And that's something to feel good about. Because unfortunately, so many of our brothers and sisters just aren't. This has been a really hard time in our community. This has been a hard time in America. This has been a hard time in the world. And it's really been scary. But, this is a prime example of that we do better together. Because I'll be frank with y'all. If it wasn't for many of you and your support, reaching out to me, having that lifeline that I could reach out to you during my phone calls, just learning about what the experience is like for you, I'd probably be somewhere in my own, dwindling in my own thoughts and own concerns and own worries. But instead, I've been able to help to make some things happen for you, make the days a little bit brighter. I just got some more of the emails and text messages. Hey, it's this horrible, dreary day, and my team is out making sure that they do those one-on-one personal deliveries full of fresh fruits and vegetables. And I mean, they are fresh. I love the way that we put these baskets together to make sure that we're avoiding any additional contamination and scare, which is we've made sure that everything's already bagged up. There are 5 pounds potatoes, 5 pounds of onions, 5 pounds of apples, the strawberries, everything's already individually boxed up and carted up. So we really just drop them right there on your porch. And in the case of many of the seniors, we had to drop them on the table because that stuff's a bit heavy. But we try to be as contactless as possible, making sure that we're bringing things to you. And I looked at the basket and immediately saw those bananas. And all I was thinking is it's time for some nana pudding, because that's how you know it's time for the summer. Nothing like some cool nana pudding in the summertime. What's your favorite thing about summer? Hit over in the comments and tell me. So it is Memorial Day weekend. So that is all about remembering our fallen heroes and what they stood for. what they fought for, and what they brought to us. And I think this is particularly important in the age of COVID, and probably more so than it is at any other time, because a lot of stuff that's going on right now is all about whether or not we are free to do this and free to do that, and it's our choice to do this, and we shouldn't have to do that. Well, let me tell you who made it so you didn't have to do, you shouldn't have to do, you coulda, woulda, you coulda, woulda, and whatever else it is. It is our those men and women who have fought for those rights. So we thank them and we celebrate them. You know, we all have had a direct contact with some of these individuals. They may be your family and friends, your neighbors, and we have so many of them in the 190th. And I'll actually give you just my personal story of one of our heroes. And actually, one of our heroes saved my life, or maybe they did. I think they did. So I was at the start of COVID, before it was like a big thing here in Philadelphia. We had seen what was going on internationally. And I think the very first cases were really in Washington State. And we kind of thought that it was going to like come like from the West Coast to the East Coast. We didn't think that New York was going to be the next hotspot. We didn't think we were going to go from, Washington State to New York City. Well, anyway, so I was actually going to go and drop some documents because I was helping to do something legally, so to do some legal representation for one of our fallen heroes. And his son was actually in the VA. He was also a veteran, but he, of course, was alive, because remember, it's Memorial Day, we're remembering. So I went and we were talking. I went to go and take the documents and finalize those documents, and walked smack dab into the middle of a testing site, y'all. That's exactly how it happened. I mean, I had no idea. It was so strange. The minute that you stepped onto the VA premises and the doors, closed and open, there they were screaming. And what happened? Apparently, your girl had a little bit of a fever, but that was also because I just started my allergy medicine. So, because the allergies come in the springtime. And so I had just a little bit of a fever. And this, again, like I said, this was the absolute beginning of before anybody knew anything, really. And so I had a little bit of a fever, and they were like, they asked me, had I traveled? I'm like, no, I haven't traveled. They're like, but you have a fever. And I'm like, yeah, well, I feel great. And they were like, okay, well, here. And then they were asking me questions, and I started coughing. Okay, worst thing you can do, and especially when they didn't know. But y'all know how we give everybody the side eye even now. You start coughing, now we know you got the Rona. Okay, so I'm I'm in the hospital screening, in the corridor, and they have no idea what to do with me. So they hustle me over to like a little closet almost, and they go, oh, we've got to figure out what to do. They don't know what to do. So, dude comes back and he's got the mask and the gear and everything on, and now they don't know what to do, because the testing is only for people who were actually veterans and can receive services at the VA, or folks who were worked at the hospital, at the VA. So they didn't know what to do with me. So they called over to University of Pennsylvania Infectious Disease, because I don't know if you know that the VA is actually part of the hospital, University of Pennsylvania. Many people don't know that. They work in conjunction. So they call over to infectious disease over at University of Penn, and they go, yeah, send her right over here. So they've never tested anybody. So I go over to the University of Pennsylvania, and they're like, just come right in. And they called me on the phone as I'm outside. They're like, no, don't come in. Sit outside near the bike rack. Okay, so then I go to get out the car. Then I get another call. No, matter of fact, don't get out the car. Get back in the car. Drive around to the back to the loading dock over where the FedEx truck is. One of our infectious disease doctors is going to meet you there. So that was Dr. Nick. I still remember Dr. Nick, because Dr. Nick had to call me 15 times because I was literally one of the first civilians to get one of these tests, totally by accident. So that's when Dr. Nick came and he stabbed me in my throat 3 times. Have y'all seen this test? Like to all the way up your nose and to the back of your throat. It's like, yeah, it's like everything. So they do 3 tests, and first one is a flu test, actually. The second one is the pneumonia test to see whether or not you have any drippings or respiratory issues. Somebody told me it was RSV, respiratory stress virus. And then the third one is the actual COVID test. And that is how I actually got tested and found out that I was negative. I told y'all the whole story about the mix up in the test and having to do it 2 more times and, or the whole thing, and basically being on quarantine 21 days because of it. So I'm very, very thankful to the folks over at the VA's hospital. And I have to say that because of that visit, I was able to come to you and tell you at least what it was like. So I'm going to go down into the comments because y'all are going to tell me, what are we thankful for here on this when it's Thankful Friday. Okay, so this is a good one. We're going to start right off. So Sharon, you can't find your state ID. Can I use my passport for the mail-in? They actually tell you that if you can't find your state ID, you can use your social security number and you take a picture of your ID, your passport, and you have to scan that in and upload your documents. So if you can't find your state ID, that's what you need to do. Okay, Sharon, let me know if it works out for you. We can continue to help. Crystal, yes, we got to get it together. Well, Crystal, they tell you all the time exactly what we're doing. Oh, okay. So you ready for summertime, April, here in the groove, slightly transformed, just a bit of a break from the norm, just a little something to break from a monotony. Okay, y'all know I'm West Philly, whatever. So that's right, it's summertime. We can't go to the Plaque anymore. Has anybody seen all the new guidelines about the Plaque? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with myself. You can't have any amplified sound at all at the platform. At the plateau. No amplified sound. So we can't go over there with amplified sound. But hey, we got a beer garden out there. Have y'all seen the beer garden? So up there, right across from Belmont Mansion, on that parking lot, the one where everybody used to hang out. Because I heard, that people used to hang out there, and that was the pickup spot. That's what they had told me. That's what I heard. I ain't never been over there, nothing. And that's where folks would hang out, and they would drink beer and they would play their radios and stuff. Again, I don't know nothing about that. That's what I heard. And now there's a beer garden there, but you can't have any amplified sound. Whoops, wait a minute, y'all disappeared. And you know what, April, actually, talking about bringing the season in right, they actually that video showed up on my timeline. I was listening to BET Soul, my timeline. See, BET Soul or BET Jams or something. BET, I know, right? I am back to watching videos, y'all. I ain't watched a video since like 1990, but all of a sudden I'm watching videos again just because I get tired of the TV being on all the time. So I want some background music. And I'm gonna tell you, it stopped me in my tracks when I heard that. And of course, on Sirius XM, I don't know if anybody's listening to, Fly XM, but it's all about like I'm trying to tell you, they hit me with some "I'm Bad" by LL Cool J, and then they went on in the summertime, and I had a whole flashback of when life was good. And then, honey, Big Daddy Kane came on. Whew, he told me he'd get the job done. I'm just, bringing, sexy chocolate to America. That's what he was doing. Hey, Charlotte Greer Brown. So we want to give Charlotte Greer Brown a shout out because that's really something to be thankful for, because Charlotte got accepted to Clio. So I know you don't know exactly what that is, but I'm going to tell you that Charlotte is Future Lawyers of America, and we are very, very proud of her. Oh, wait a minute. This is interesting. Jefferson Hospital has now made it mandatory effective June 1st. You must be COVID-19 testing 2 days prior to and surgical and any. Oh, okay. So their testing was the higher letting us know is if you have any surgical procedure, it's kind of like when they would tell you come off your aspirins and those things. Now they're telling you've got to be COVID free or have a COVID test 2 days prior to. Yeah, Bussy, I don't know. The park used to be for all of us, but now all of a sudden it's not. But let's talk about the park, because the park sits in the 190th. I don't know if you recognize that, but all of that area is the 190th. So all of those great things that you know about the park, the man, the Dell, the Please Touch Museum, the Plateau, all that stuff is in the 190th. The tennis courts back there off of Ford Road, coming across the Strawberry Mansion Bridge, that is all the 190th. Going on down to the Arthur Ashe, and I still call it the Arthur Ashe Memorial tennis courts, but they're not anymore. All of that is the 190th. So when you vote and you want to talk about who is making the rules for your park, you need to think about that and who you put into office. When you talk about whether or not you feel as though the park should be equal access for all of us, that we should be able to hang out there with our family and friends and celebrate. If you want the Philadelphia of old that you remember, when you want to enjoy summertime, I'm just going to say, hey, go over to vote190.com and make sure you have your ballot so you can make that decision for yourself. Because I think that's crazy. You can't have any amplified sound, but yet they told us we couldn't have block parties anymore because it's too dangerous. And before, do y'all remember when they first told us to have block parties? They told us to have block parties because they said that that way they didn't have to reroute, that way they didn't have to have cleanup after the park, and that you had bathroom facilities and all those kind of things and you weren't overloaded. So now we're in the park. Now we're on the block parties. Then they told us we can't have block parties. So then we go back to the park, and now they're telling you can't have any amplified sound. And I don't know about you, but without amplified sound, you literally just sitting in the park. I guess we're supposed to have a real picnic, with the picnic basket, a la Yogi Bear, and sit around and look at each other. Yes, they straight Brody the entire park. That's exactly what they did. Now, who is they? I don't know. There you go. So now, today we actually have a special guest. I'm going to see whether or not we've got him there. Hold on. And I'm always so grateful that you folks bear with me as I try to be the executive producer and the gaffer and all those kind of things, because we got one of these sexy senior citizens. He is a veteran. And, he's getting up there in age. So we were bringing him into the new age with the technology. So we're just trying to make sure that he has it all together. We're waiting on him to join. But in the interim, we're going to bring you something new and interesting. And being that I'm running for state rep, I thought this was even more interesting because we are going to bring to you Sam Lewis Jr., who is the president of the Crystal Bird Fawcett Civic Institute for Civic Engagement. Let me make sure I got the whole thing, because I know the place because I've walked past it my entire life. He is the president of the Crystal Bird Fawcett Institute. That's what it is. Institute for Civic Engagement. Oh, so I'm going to bring on Mr. Sam Lewis Jr. Hey, Mr. Sam.
Hello, Danielle. How are you?
Great. You got quite a following over here. So they're all watching you. So say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Hello. This is my debut on internet video conferencing or whatever. Yeah.
But you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm catching up.
So when he first logged on, I'm like, you look familiar, but I can't see. But he didn't know yet that you got to have a light in front of you, because this is only his second Zoom call and his first live ever.
Yeah, it's the windows behind me. I don't know if I can.
No, you're doing good. I can see you.
Yeah, okay.
Y'all can see that lovely white hair, can't you? Everybody, you can see it.
This is my quarantine beard. I just decided to let it grow since February when he first started.
That's not a quarantine beard. It's a Rona beard. That's what they call it.
Rona beard. Okay.
It's your Rona beard.
Yeah.
This is my Rona do. I got it the other day. It came in the mail.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Institute.
Well, Crystal Bird Fawcett, I'll just start with her. She was the first Black woman elected to a state legislature in 1938. And she lived at this house at 5403 Vine Street. She actually lived with her sister. Her sister owned the property. Mm-hmm. Her sister was Birdie O. Bird. She was a teacher.
Birdie O. Bird?
Yeah, her name, Birdie Odessa Bird. And she was a school teacher over at the Bordentown School for Colored Youth. I think that's what they called it. Her parents were the founders of the Princess Anne Academy. in Princess Anne, Maryland, which later became University of Maryland Eastern Shore. There was, it's part of the, I think, the Baptist convention, and they started these schools to teach, African Americans skills and et cetera like that. But after the father died, and she was born like 1980. No, I have it right in front of me. I think 1987, and by the turn of the century, her parents had died. Her father died. Her mother became principal of the school. Then she passed. Then she went to live in Boston with her aunt. So she was mainly raised in Boston. She was quite a dynamic woman. She was involved in a lot of things. I was talking to Daniel earlier and about finding newspaper clippings. And she appeared in the newspaper as early as 1910, where she was given a concert at some local church. Her and her cousin, would do this musical things. And just later on, she was a school teacher in Boston. Then she later went to work with the YWCA, in which she established these colored girl reserves. They were, I guess like the brownies, I guess, in a way. And she traveled across the northeast part of the United States, starting these clubs. And these clubs lasted easily into the 1950s. So through that, she got involved with the Quakers. And that brought her down here to Philadelphia. And she was a lecturer. So she would travel, again, mostly the East Coast and the Midwest, and give lectures. And one year, in 1924, I think it was, she gave over 200 speeches in front of 50,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, she was quite a dynamic speaker. She spoke on things like, what it means to be a colored youth, the meanings of Negro spirituals, So a lot of the newspaper clippings I came across were about her appearances in these different churches and organizations throughout the Northeast. Then she got involved with she came with this idea. I don't know if I'll ramble. I'll try not to ramble. Working with the Quakers, she came up with this idea to have a scientific study of race relations. So they established I think it's called the Race Institute over Swarthmore. So every summer they would have this month-long seminars about race relations in America. This was like her idea. So in this process, she met people like W.B. Du Bois and Eleanor Roosevelt. She became good friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. So they have this communication, letters, part of the archives of how she back and forth with Eleanor Roosevelt, which then got her into politics. So of the New Deal, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal. She became active with the WPA. She got a job like director of Colored Women Affairs or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a while, so forgive me.
It's okay.
Yeah, and
we're all friends. You don't need to be nervous.
Okay. And again, she had a picture in the paper about how she was at a protest because they were laying off the black workers and not the white workers. So she was part of the protest. And again, with the New Deal, she got involved with that and got involved in politics. They asked her to run for the position, and a lot of contention between her and John Kelly because she had this direct line to Eleanor Roosevelt, and they felt that she would just forget the local people and go right to the top. So they had this big riff. Again, these are from newspaper articles that you normally wouldn't see just Googling her. All this stuff is disparate, just out there. I pulled it all together. I have a lot of information. So she ran for the district rep in 1938. It was the rep. It was a district, the seat held by Marshall Shepard. Of course, we got the playground named after him. He later became a city councilman, and in that time it was just the senatorial districts, and each senatorial district was then assigned a state rep based on the population. So this. I'm not sure if it was the 13th or the 18th district at that time, and they got 3 reps, and she was the third top winner of the election. So that's how she became the state
Also,
rep.
then the very first Black woman state rep in the state of Pennsylvania.
Oh, in the country.
In
No, well,
the country.
first elected African American to a woman to a state legislature. In New Hampshire, I think
we're continuing the tradition. She's right here from the 190.
Right here in this district, in this area. Haddington has a history in itself that I don't think people have really delved into, because it had the population that supported a candidate like Crystal Byrd Fawcett and some of the other things that were going on in the neighborhood that she participated in. She did a lot of things locally.
Well, not only that. So this is a near and dear project for me, because I always saw the marker because it was right across the street from Our Lady of Victory, which is where I went to school.
Right.
So I always saw the marker, and I would stop and we would read it. And we did a project on that. I think when I was in like the 5th grade, when we were learning about the 2 houses of government. When we were learning about what does because I think I told the group before, I always had so much trouble with the House versus what does a legislature do? And I've learned that not all of us has really learned what the legislature does. The concept of making laws is very, very complex.
Yeah, and then it really comes down to the local level. You have it's really the counties that pretty much make a lot of decisions that then flow up to the state levels.
So they are thanking you for the history of the Honorable Kristen Byrd Fawcett.
Oh, sure. I mean, I can go on and on. It's just.
So my question is, how do we come out to visit? How do we get civic engaged? What are we doing? How can we help you?
Well, my focus is kind of restoring the house. I like doing the handiwork around here. I'm doing it slowly, but it's a one-man job, but I enjoy it. We had when we were more active as an organization, we had a couple of projects going on. One was to have a commemorative stamp for Crystal Byrd Fawcett. I'll stand up and show you the shirts that I had made up. And we're going, collecting signatures on a petition to send to the postmaster to nominate her. But it's a process where you just submit the name. You have no idea when they're going to do it, if they do it, and like that. You just know when they announce it. That's the process. And the other project we're working on, I'll show this, is the having a street named in her honor.
Oh wow! Okay.
Now currently there's a sub sign at the corner of 54th and Vine Street, where the green's on the top, and you have the red.
For Geneva Black.
No, well, they have that's at 50. That's on Haverford, I think. But on Vine Street,
I would forget that because they do that right there. So
right. So right at 54th and Vine, there's one for Crystal Byrd Fawcett. They snuck it in and didn't tell us about it. We couldn't do a ceremony or anything like that. I happened to look up one day and it was there.
It was there. But hey, somebody was trying to acknowledge it, right?
Yeah, we did the petition to the city council. But the issue is 54th Street divides the councilmatic districts.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
so people don't know that. So one side of the block is the 3rd councilmatic district, and the other across the street is the 4th councilmatic district.
Right. Yeah. So I really didn't know who to thank, for the sign going up, because it's on both sides. So we did petition both council persons. Now the other thing, doing my research and looking at the things about street naming, there in Philadelphia, there's only I forgot my information. There aren't any streets named for a woman in Philadelphia. There's the Betsy Ross, right? There's the Betsy Ross Bridge, and
you mean like the major streets, like Martin Luther King Drive, and
right? There's none named.
Now I'm trying to think. Do I know any? And I don't.
There aren't any. There's 40 named for men: Ben Franklin, George Washington, all that. 40 named, and half of those are saints. St. James Street, St. Martin Street, and stuff like that.
They're appreciating the history lesson here.
Yeah, and there's none in Philadelphia, but other than in the Northeast, in the housing development, is the Bonnie Geller Court, and off of 12th and Girard, there's the Betsy Ross Place. But again, no major streets named for a woman.
Well, we definitely need to change that.
So I
Too many
thought
women have made too much of
Vine
an
Street,
impact here in our city.
yeah, Vine Street here in West Philadelphia would be the perfect street to rename for a woman, because she lived in this block, she worked in this area, and this area, demographically, I'm not sure where the divide was between black and white, because when I was coming up, it was like on the other side of 63rd Street. You know, you don't go over on the other side of 63rd Street. So I don't know where that division was back in the 30s. But when my mother,
this was quite a history lesson, and that's something to feel good about. So there you go.
It's so much, you know. Did you know there
How
was
do we contact you?
Okay, that's through email.
And that
is a GBF Institute.
GBF Institute
at gmail.com.
If you want more information, I tell you, please reach out to gbfinstitute at gmail.com. We're going to bring you back a little bit later, but we've got quite a few hanging on in the waiting room today. I guess maybe it was raining hard enough that everybody decided to come in. But thank you so much today, Mr. Lewis. And we hope that we're going to see you out at the polls on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Don't forget, June 2nd.
I'm doing mail-in. I signed up for the mail-in.
You already did vote190.com. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And now we're hanging on. I'm sure you remember her quite well. Dr. Hankins. Yes. I'm sorry, and I'll come back to you, Wayne. So we have Dr. Hankins here. I'm sure you remember her because she was a doctor who came to us who told us that she was doing the certifications for the COVID testing early on when they didn't have any people who looked like us who were doing the work. And some short time later, then we had the Black Doctors Consortium start coming out to our neighborhood. So that's how we have change. Well, she's back today, and she's got a special guest with her. Hi, Dr. Hankins.
Hello, how you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thank you. This is special to us. This would be our 19th day of honor tomorrow for Black and minority World War II veterans. And because of COVID, we had to cancel. So you're giving us an opportunity to honor the Black and minority veterans of World War II and veterans in general. So thank you.
It is very appreciated, but we appreciate them even more. I started off the show just by saying that so many of the rights that everybody wants to, take for granted or scream that they have and you can't infringe on, we've got to remember to honor those folks who fought for those rights, those families who were directly impacted, the soldiers that we had that fell. But even more so, I think it's fabulous that we are acknowledging specifically our Black leaders, because so many times they kind of fall by the wayside. What was really interesting for me, and I'll be honest, now I'm gonna tell you all about one of my not shining examples in scholastic education, was we had a project about the Civil War. When I was in the 8th grade, it was like our big graduation project, and I was like first in the class, and like I'm a history nerd. I'm like social studies was definitely my thing. And we had done the project, and it was like a year-long project. And in the end, I got a 99 and didn't get 100. And I like to die. And I was like, what do you mean? What did the slaves give to the Civil War? And I talked about all the ingenuity and the development of the cotton gin and what engineers look like. And you know what I did not give you? The most important thing. We gave our lives for this country. And I'll never forget that lesson, because it's always the thing that I remember most whenever I talk about anybody in their service, is that they know that they could give their lives, and many of them do. So I thank you for your work with the foundation to make sure that we have this awareness and this acknowledgement.
Well, it's been a struggle, and is a struggle, because unfortunately, we're in prime real estate area, and it's been a nuclear war to stop the developers and those that support them who feel that ACES has no value. And if you look in the city plan, you don't see us in the city plan. So I think today I'm feeling particularly emotional because of some vandalism that's been taking place on the building. and the fact that we get no support whatsoever. And that's okay, because we really don't need it. We came in number one for the National Trust for the entire country. And we got so many votes.
Okay.
So many votes that we got 10,000 above the grant.
Oh, wow.
And that's how the building was able to be restored so that L&I couldn't tear it down.
Where is the building?
The
Where
building is 5801 Germantown Avenue, right across from Vernon Park. And what we're hoping is that, in addition, because of our work with the veterans, particularly the Vietnam veterans, in 2000, I think 16, we were awarded the Vietnam Memorial Plaque. And this is an 800-pound structure that is outside the building. Now, what happens is our Vietnam veterans, particularly, is not as visible as it should be.
Okay.
So we've been in the process of setting up a special case for it. So we should have that case complete in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to have an official Vietnam Memorial dedication in Germantown for this plaque and for Parker Hall. So this is the only historical site in the entire world, which is why we came in number one, that the site is historical. Like mostly you have museums and you bring things into museums. This is where the veterans and their families were during World War II. And that's why it's very important that it be preserved. I was just listening to your previous guest about getting a plaque. And I'm going to talk to you about that after the election, which we hope you win, because we think that that will protect us. It may not be total protection, but it can protect us that this was there.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, because if the developers get a hold on this building, nobody will remember Parker Hall or the Black veterans or the other minorities, because we're open for all veterans. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to yield in a few minutes to our board member, our World War II veteran who was actually in the Battle of the Bulge. Now, for those who don't know history, Blacks and other minorities have always worked in America. They've always been part of the Army, just like women have always been part of the Army and the military. They might have worked as camp followers, they might have worked as formal nurses or quality nurses, but it's always been this helped. Because the United States and the Axis Allies parties were in big trouble during World War II, the United States government was forced to formally integrate the Army.
Yes.
And people thought, these people can't fight, they're cowards, they're monkeys, they don't have the intelligence to hold the artillery, we can't trust them. And there was a big fight that they did not want to include Black soldiers in military combat in World War II. So people say, well, why should they want to fight? Because this country has this and that against it. I'm going to answer like my father used to answer, who was a Muslim in World War II and caught all sorts of shades of hell. This country says all men are created equal.
Absolutely.
It may not be happening, but it says it. And as you travel around the world, which I've happened to have done, you can participate in some limited things if you're female. Like I happened to be in Morocco and got into trouble. I happened to be in Shanghai and got into trouble. But I still get in trouble. Philadelphia too, actually. But the point of the matter is, I'm not going to not speak. I'm not going to act like I'm stupid. I'm not going to act like I'm not feminine. I'm not going to fit your little stereotype. It is nothing wrong with loving and caring and putting that word into action. And no, I don't support poverty, because who wants to be poor? But my goodness, you don't have to hurt people to get rich. I don't understand this whole philosophy that somebody has to be down so you to be up. So with my greatest honor, I would like to introduce Mr. Benjamin Berry, who participated in the Battle of the Bulge. And we're gonna move so that he can come right in the camera.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hey, Mr. Barry, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
You're
Uh,
looking
let me
good.
take this off. Uh, we have to wear these masks. And I'm
Yes, we
proud to
do.
wear it.
Can you hear me okay? You good?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Well, my pleasure.
Well,
My
we
pleasure.
are very excited to have you here today because we want to honor our service members, but we also, when we have living history, we need to acknowledge our living history, and you are living history.
Thank you. Been there. What they say and done that?
Well, but the problem is that we have an entire, I guess, actually really three generations, and the further we get away from it, if we don't have reminders, the less we remember, you know?
So true.
So I just want to know, like, what brought you to service?
Say that again, please.
What brought you into service? Why did you join the military?
I had no choice. I was drafted.
So you were drafted into the military. How old were you?
19. I got my draft notice prior to that, but I hadn't finished high school. So I asked, could I get a deferment? I was to graduate in January 1943, but I wanted to hold off going into the service so I could graduate. So they gave me the deferment from July to January. And once I graduated in June 1943, I was drafted in July 1943.
What branch of the military were you drafted into?
They did give me a deferment until I could graduate, which was 6 months, yes.
And what branch of the military were you drafted into?
United States Army.
And I just want you to know you got a little fan club going on in the comments over here. So
Yes.
I'll put them up so that you can actually see them. You should be able to see them on the screen in front of you. Thank you, Brother Barry. Charlotte Greer Brown says it is so nice to meet you.
Charlotte.
Emmanuel Bussey thanks you for your service. And Zahira Ahmad gives you the strong arm salute.
That's your staff?
That's your stat, yes, but they're for you. They're not for me.
All right. All right.
Now, where were you stationed? Like, so where'd you do your training?
Well, when I was drafted, of course, I went to North Broad Street, gave them my information. They copied it all down. And then they sent me to Fort Dix. From Fort Dix, that's New Jersey. We went to Virginia, Camp Lee, and we got our working papers, everything that was needed to show that we were in the military. And then from there, we went to Illinois to take our basic training, a place called Camp Ellis.
Okay.
Illinois.
Now, I mean, so was this like your first time away from home? I mean, at 19 back, in 1943, that was a whole grown man. Now we treat our 19-year-olds like little boys. So what was that like?
Well, it was good, and I did have something to stimulate me, you could say. I met a young lady. We dated for I met her at 17, and she said she would wait for me when I got out the Army, and she did.
So is that ring I see on your finger now?
Yeah, well, I got it on this hand now because she's deceased. Yes.
We're sorry for your loss. But when you sat down, I did see the ring. I said, okay, now.
Okay. Hands off.
So that's fabulous. So, because, we're all a different generation and that concept. How long were you away? You said she waited for you.
Uh, Not quite 3 years,
Okay.
2.5 years.
Now they want some real specifics. So they said, do you know what company and division? Do you remember any battles? Like they want to do some research. We got
Oh,
King people in front of us. When we got living legends, we want to know.
all right. I was in the quartermasters. And of course, quartermasters, most blacks were. Their service unit, service outfit. We did everything
Mhm.
mail, gasoline, ammunition, food, clothing, all that we supplied the army with. Our outfit happened to be something most people hadn't heard of. It was called 863rd Quartermaster Fumigation and Bath.
Fumigation.
Yes. Now, what does that have to do with the army? Well, once you're on the front lines, can't have clothes and change, can't have a decent bath, shower, and
Hmm.
just your helmet actually was your face mold. You fill that with water, and that's what you wash as much of your body as you could, weather permitting. Of course, November, December, January, those months, most of them went without a shower, bath, or anything. But once they're on the front line and they're given, we would say, relaxation, they could come back from the front line.
Hmm.
They would come to us first, the
Oh,
fumigation and bath. We would have a change of clothes. We were right next to a laundry outfit, which was army based. GIs were in charge of that, and they set up next to us. They would give us clean clothes. We would take the clothes that the soldiers had on for many a day, probably weeks. In turn, they would give them fresh clothes after we had the showers for them. They were so elated and happy to have a shower. They hadn't had it for 3, 4 weeks, maybe longer. So we made quite a hit with the gentlemen. We, of course, didn't have the
their
ladies.
favorite people.
Yes, yes. They, in fact, they were so excited they would forget their wallet, forget their rings, the watch, whatever they had. Just so relieved to have clean clothes, including socks.
So
So
now, did you ever leave stateside?
say that again.
Did you leave stateside?
No, no, we stayed stateside uh, entire part of the war.
Okay. Okay.
We were in D-Day. Our outfit was 21 days on the Omaha beach. They had no need for us prior to that time, unless
Mhm.
the Germans were breaking through, which leads me up to the point of the Battle of the Bulge.
Okay.
We, in our outfit, we had rifles. We had to keep them clean, but we did not have any ammunition. Now, what good is a rifle without ammunition? Nevertheless, we had the orders, so we kept them clean. Didn't have any ammunition, couldn't fire them until the Germans start breaking through the Ardennes forest. That was the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge. They made a bulge in our front line. That's how it got the name
Hmm.
Bulge. Of course, we were battling against them. They
And
gave
all of
us,
a sudden, they didn't care who had ammunition.
yes. Then they gave us ammunition.
Well, Zahira just asked, what purpose did that serve? The guns with no ammunition. So Um, it wasn't that, it was that they didn't trust us. He started off by telling you that the whole thought was that we were going to be quick cowards and we would turn on the folks that the other folks. We would turn
Yes.
on those and we were given guns. We'd run away. That so it was all of that. And until the situation got desperate and dire, all of a sudden we got real capable, kind of like the Tuskegee Airmen. That they wouldn't let them fly on the plane until it was desperate.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Because our officers were white.
Yep.
Our captain, who was the main officer at headquarters, he was from Texas. So
He
that
was a good old boy.
yeah, one of the boys, right. But as I stated, we did have one lieutenant who was from New York, and that was a blessing because he gave us much more than was required at that particular time. Of course, we had to keep it under our hats. But nevertheless, we appreciate that, and he appreciated us. Of course, we did went out of the way to help him too. The others.
Well, we appreciate you.
All right, lady. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we do. I just want to know. So you come home and you come back to young lady. What was her name?
Lois.
You come back to Miss Lois.
Lois Grady.
And what was like? I'm sorry.
She lived in Haverford, Pennsylvania.
Haverford, Pennsylvania.
Just outside of Philadelphia.
Yes.
I live.
We're in West Philly, so we're real familiar with Haverford.
Okay. Are you familiar with Willow Grove?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's where I was born and raised.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is my question. So what was life like? You come back and you get married to Miss Lois and you settle into life. And what'd you do?
I went to the GI Bill and took a trade under painting and paper hanging,
Okay.
but they didn't have enough students. So they asked me to continue in the painting along with the high school students at Bach Senior High in South Philadelphia. So I stayed there, and we finally got 3 other veterans who wanted the same trade. So they found a teacher to paper hanging. I preferred the paper hanging to the painting. So I stuck with that. And after 3, 4, 6 months of that, all the measurements, because we only had one room to practice in, all the measurements and everything were the same, so we could do it with our eyes closed. So the teacher had some neighbors who wanted some work to done, so he recommended me. And once I did the work for the neighbors, they were so surprised and pleased. Of course, my price was good too, but that they went ahead and said, well, I advanced as far as I could go in the school. So they gave me my papers, certificate. And from then on, that was 1947, up until 2000. Well, I retired at the age of 82.
You retired. How many years young are you now, sir?
96.
Okay, now.
Yeah, they've been, God's been good to me.
It's been a nice, long, full life.
Yes, lady.
So tell me, did you have any kids? You got any grandkids? All that kind of fabulous stuff. We want to know.
Yeah, okay. I have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. My son's the oldest. He's retired now. In fact, all of them are retired. But they all live out of the state.
Okay.
One lives over in Sicklerville, New Jersey. 1 in Waco, Texas. And I have 2 in Cleveland, Ohio. So I have many places to visit. And they're always saying the door's open, Dad. So out of those 4, then I have 7 grands. I have about 8 great-grands. So yes, one of them, my great-grand, was named after me, my same name. In fact, he just had a birthday early part of this month, 4 years old. So I'm not around him to spoil him. We do converse quite a bit on the phone, whatever it takes.
So do you FaceTime with him? Because now you've been live here to the world, y'all. You can zoom it up with him.
Yeah. They're trying to teach me that.
Well, see, here you go. A lesson right here.
All right.
You got like 40 folks watching you.
How many?
You like Philadelphia famous right now.
Oh, well, Philadelphia's been good to me. Although I remember times and places in Philadelphia we could not go. The strikes we had to put on, marches and everything else. Mm-hmm.
And that lesson that you were giving us is that we have to continue to fight for everything that we want. Isn't that right, sir?
That's right.
So I'm going to remind the folks that are out there watching, if you haven't already, go to vote190.com, vote190.com, get your ballot. Make sure that everything that this fabulous young man right here fought for does not go by the wayside.
Thank you, lady. Sure enough.
Well, we want to really thank you for your service. Thank you so much for the fabulous history lesson. It was a pleasure to just get to know you and a little bit of glimpse into your life. Hopefully I can give you a call and we can really have a chat it up sometime. I'll practice on that FaceTime with you so you can call your great grand.
Please do that. Yes, lady. Doctor would like to get back to you if you have one moment.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
It's hard.
And go Eagles. I think what you know, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. Go Eagles. That's the first thing I noticed. That's right. Go Eagles. Go Birds.
That we get treated pretty good with the Eagles.
Hey, you got to see them finally get their parade. Go Eagles.
Yes. Oh, yes.
By all means.
That was. I'm a diehard Eagle fan too.
That's right. Super Bowl 52. That's the only Super Bowl that counts.
I just wanted to remind people, and it probably doesn't apply to the people watching your podcast because they are aware, but we have a lot of apathy, depression, and feeling of hopelessness. And the Russians were able to decrease the Black vote by 20%. And if you think about that, there was a very active campaign against Hillary Clinton, and it's still going on, that voting doesn't matter. You don't matter, no matter who's in office, it doesn't matter. And one thing nice about studying history is it's a social vaccine. If you can see how far we've come, and that can go away in a day. Negligent as a physician, if I didn't speak to the fact that in the organization I work with, we've had 40% Black COVID deaths. Now, I don't want to brag as a leading physician of the world, but sometimes I have to put my foot down. And one of the reasons I haven't lost a single COVID patient is because I demand they have oxygen. Now, this seems simple, real simple. You got a respiratory problem, you have shortness of breath, you should get oxygen. But it is a problem getting it. And that is the sort of thing that we have to talk about. And one of the things I like to be is in the front of things.
That's right.
Because if you're in the back, you can't do nothing from the back.
Mm-hmm.
And my father used to say, reach for the star, you might land on the moon. But if you don't reach, you ain't going nowhere. So let us reach for Philadelphia to not have a single another COVID death. Now, how can we do this? Number one is screening, both by the test and by clinical symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a cough, when you have shortness of breath, with or without a fever, if you have a sore throat, with or without a fever, particularly over the age of 50, that mandates screening.
This is the first time I heard this. A sore throat. This is the first time I heard this.
That's right.
So wait a minute. So this is a new one. Okay, so I'm gonna write this down for him. So you have a sore throat.
Yes.
With
Shortness
or
of breath.
without.
Shortness of breath. With or without a fever. What used to be called acute bronchitis. If you just coughing up phlegm. What happens with some Black patients, and somebody said, what purpose does that serve? I didn't understand the question.
No, that was an accident. That was from
okay.
That was from our dear.
Okay. Anyway, what I'm saying is that you want to go in sooner rather than later.
That's right.
Okay, you don't want to wait until you have that shortness of breath, respiratory insufficiency. It's a closer step to respiratory insufficiency to failure than it is acute bronchitis to respiratory insufficiency. So let's get people in earlier. So what I've been able to do, as you know, and thank you for the shout out, that I've been doing this COVID business and getting my patients in early, and therefore the prognosis in the end has been better.
That's right.
Okay, because we're getting them in early, getting them diagnosed, getting them treated, getting them home, fighting with them to stay home. Okay, fighting for them to social distance, fighting for they're getting their vitamins, their vitamin D. I'm asking them to eat yogurt. I'm asking them to get their fish oil. I'm asking them to decrease stress. I'm asking them to exercise, even if they go on the Comcast and do a little 10-minute walk. All of these things are antioxidants fighters. So it doesn't hurt. And if you don't have your flu shot, anti-pneumonia shot, these are the things that we can do to help ourselves better. We started a comprehensive program for diabetes and hypertension control, which we'll talk about another day. But what I wanted to do was to say, at the meeting I was in, I don't know what I do, Robin, rubbing people the wrong way. But it was like all these different doctors, and then you were supposed to be able to churn in what you were doing. So I tried to hit the button, and I couldn't hit my button, okay? Because what I'm doing is not financially. See, if we put all the Black COVID patients on home oxygen, you know how much that's going to cost? But you know how much lives that's going to save.
That's right. That's
so
right.
What I'm asking the people out there is if you have somebody at home who's having the symptoms, let them get tested, let them get treated. And when they time for them to go home, if they're still short, ask for home oxygen. It doesn't have to be long. It's just till they're in the recuperation phase.
Okay now.
And everybody may or may not need it. I don't want to make a blank statement, but at least put it out there. Let's do something about reversing these statistics. And for our babies, for our young people, we know that some of you are depressed. We know that some of you don't feel like there's any hope in the world, but it certainly is. And you should know that you are loved, you are wanted, and there are people that care about you. They don't even know you. And that's why history is so important.
Dr. Hankins, let me tell you, we got all the love today. We learned about our first Black female state representative in the state of in the country, came right on our westerly in basically what is the 190th in the one in the Haddington section. We met our now I know what the quartermaster does, and you know, we've really talked about the Battle of the Bulge, knowing how they don't respect us until they need us. And this is the same thing that has replicated itself in society in generations. The Civil War was the same. The Revolutionary War was the same. Now you're telling us about World War II. We know what happened in Vietnam. And you know what? We got a war going on right now. And the war is for our vote. Believe me, they wouldn't want to suppress it if they didn't have an advantage to it. So everybody who has not received their ballot, who has not registered for one, I'm going to ask you all to go over to vote190.com. You got 4 days to do it, but don't wait 4 days. Get off this live. Go do it now. Vote190.com. If you're having problems, reach out to my office, 267-291-4702, 267-291-4702. We are here to help. But I'm going to tell you, step one is head on over to vote190.com. If you are having any kind of health issues, you're looking for a new primary care physician, if you're having issues and you can't seem to get one of them COVID screenings, you need to call up Dr. Hankins at Hankins Family. What is the whole thing? I forgot. Just that phrase.
It's Hankins and Associates Medical and Community Care.
What's the number?
Okay, the phone number is 215-842-1075, but I don't necessarily want new patients. I want the doctors that you have to do their job. But what I do,
that's right. Get the doctors. Hey, and you know what? And tell them Dr. Hankins did. You know, y'all know how many people have gone to a doctor telling them what Dr. I said. Well, I'm going to tell you, Dr. Hankins is a world-renowned physician right here, still practicing amongst us, trying to help us get healthy. Okay, so you go to your doctor and you tell them Dr. Hankins said so, and that is all something to feel good about. I thank all of my guests who were on today, my friends who were here over from DKOD. We appreciate you so much and your support. You've been getting the word out. You know, all of my friends who have just reached out to me. This is what I feel good about, because again, as I've been going back through these lists and calling folks, and folks have been calling me, people are excited about this election because people are excited that they actually have a choice to make. This is not being handed to you. It's not being shoved down your throat. You can go out there and say what you don't want. You can say that you are concerned about the future of West Philadelphia and put a West Philadelphian in that West Philadelphia seat. So again, if you don't have your ballot, I'm going to tell you, go over to vote190.com. This is Attorney Danyl Patterson, the only Black woman that is running for this state representative seat that is from West Philadelphia, in West Philadelphia, and knows the ins and outs of West Philadelphia. I've been in this community my entire life. I've been practicing here. I've been working here. I've been playing here. I went to the schools you went to. I walked the streets you walked. I know who you are because I am you, and I am asking for your vote. But first, go get that ballot, vote190.com. Thank you, Dr. Hankins, so much.
Please, acesmuseum.online.
Yes, no, well, we have all his information.
Okay.
Because on top of that, I walk past the museum every single day, because don't forget, I live over there on 54th and Vine. So we know exactly where this is, and we're going to go visit, because we've got to make sure that we keep our living legends alive. We've got to preserve our history with the Veterans Museum over there on Germantown Avenue. We've got to preserve our history for our first Black state representative over here in Haddington, because if we don't care about them, nobody else will. And that's me telling you that on this Feel Good Friday, that together we will do better. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.